Okay, so talking about least common multiple and greatest common factor. Two things I want you to write at the very top. Okay, factors. I want you to think of the word factors are few. Okay, they're all the ways we can multiply to get a number. So if I wanted to know what the factors of 8 were, how do we multiply to get 8? 2 times 4. So 2 and 4 are both factors of 8. 1 times 8, yep. So 1, 2, 4, and 8 would be our factors of 8. And the reason I say factors are few, they always start with the number 1. And they will always end with the number itself. Okay? The opposite of that are multiples. Okay? Multiples are many. So factors few, multiples many. And that should look like an N. Many. Sorry. Okay? Multiples start with the number itself and go on forever. And they're what you say when you skip count. So if we were skip counting by 5s, 5, 10, 15, 20, those are all your multiples of 5. Alright, so factors, they're going to have a few of them, but multiples are infinite. They go on forever. When we talk about the least common multiple, or the LCM, so let's write that, least common multiple. Okay? This is the smallest number shared when skip counting. So least common multiple is the smallest number shared when skip counting. And you'll hear that referred to as the LCM. Separate our name and date over here. Sorry, kind of ran together. Alright, so the opposite of that, least common multiple, would be what? Greatest common factor. You got it. So GCF stands for the greatest common factor. So if LCM was the smallest number, greatest common factor is going to be the biggest. Okay, so greatest common factor is the largest number shared. Again, that word common means they share it. And I'm going to write this in easy terms. When listing all the ways to multiply. And I'm going to explain to you in a second what that means. So, greatest common factor is the largest number shared when listing all the ways to multiply. And you'll hear that referred to as the GCF. So, LCM and GCF. Okay? Alright, okay. You need a second? You're good. So we're going to talk about how we use these and why we use these. And this is kind of a go back and review lesson because I realized once we got through fractions that we were missing a little bit of this. Okay, so we're going to start with finding the greatest common factor. So I have two numbers, 12 and 66. 12 and 66. I'm going to make myself a T-chart. Now, remember, factors always start with what number? 1. Very good. So I'm going to go through. The first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to list all the ways I can multiply to get this number. So how can I multiply to get 12? 1 times 12. Okay? 2 times 6. 3 times 4. And look what happens here. Do I have any other numbers that I can multiply? Well, but look, I do a U-turn right here. I go 1, 2, 3, then I'm up to number 4 and go backwards. So I've listed all of my factors that I can to get 12. And we know that 6 times 2, but that's the same thing as 2 times 6. So So I just want to make sure I'm listing all the numbers, all the ways to multiply to get 12. Okay? How can I multiply to get 66? 1 times 66. 2 times 33. What about 3? Can I do the opposite of this? 3 times 22. Very good. All right, what about 4? I don't think 4 will go. It doesn't end in 5 or 0, so 5 can't go. What about 6? 6 times 11. Okay? Don't have any other numbers. 7 won't go. 8, 9, and then we're up to 10. So those are all the ways I can multiply to get 66. So now, because I'm looking for the GCF, the greatest common factor, what's the largest number they both share? What is it?
3.
Well, I've got a 1, a 3, 6. Remember, we're looking for the largest one. So the largest number they both share would be 6. So we would say my greatest common factor is equal to 6. Now, those of you that are having trouble simplifying, this is why, that's okay, this is why we need the greatest common factor. If I have a fraction that's 12 over 66, I'm looking for the greatest common factor, the largest number that will go into both, which we just figured out is 6. And when I figure that out, look what's right here next to it. That is my new fraction, simplified already for you. Because this is multiplication. What's the opposite of multiplication? Division. So remember, when I find that largest number that goes into both, I'm going to divide numerator and denominator by that number. What's already done over here for me, so there's my new fraction. And it will always be the number that's paired up with your greatest common factor, just because it's the opposite of multiplication. All right, let's try another. So we've got 32 and 48. Okay, factors again always start with what number? 1. So we're going to say 1 times 32. Can I do anything before I get there? 2 times... Hang on, let's do them, let's do them in order. 2 times what? 2 will go because it's an even number. 16, very good. 3 can't. What about 4?
Yes. 4 times 6.
4 times 8, close.
Wait, what?
4 times 8. Yeah, 4 times 9 would be 36. Okay, 5, it doesn't end in 5 or 0. 6 won't go because that would give me 30 or 36. What about 7? Nope, and then I'm already to 8. So if I look at this, my U-turn is done. Those are all my factors. Okay, so 1 times 48. What about 2?
2 times 24.
24, very good. Here's a tricky one, and I'm going to show you a trick. 3 can go into 48. Here's how I know. If I take the number 48 and add 4 and 8 together, what do I get? 12. Is 12 divisible by 3?
Yes.
Yes. So 48 is divisible by 3. If you add your digits together and they can be divided by 3, so can your number. Isn't that cool? Okay, so 3 will go into 48 how many times? That'll give us 36, not quite.
Well, if you
20 would give us
12. 3 times 12.
That's 36. 16, very good, very good. Okay, some of them you have to think about.
4 times 12.
4 times 12, very good. 5 can't because it ends in 8. 6 times 8. And then we know 7 can't. And look, there's my U-turn right there. All the way back up, so I'm done. So looking at this, what's my largest? 16. 16 is my greatest common factor. So, GCF equals 16. So again, if I had a fraction like 32 over 48, and I found my greatest common factor, what would be my new fraction? 2/3.
Wait, how do you get 2/3? Why do you...
Look what's right next to my greatest common factor on both of them. Because what do I do if I divide 32 by 16? I get 2. Good. Those words just made my day. If I divide 48 by 16, I get 3.
See, this is easy.
Good. Yes.
So, I'm kind of confused. Isn't it 16 as a greatest common factor?
Yes.
Because it appears on both sides.
And it's the largest one. Because look, I have others that are on both sides. 4's on both sides. 8's on both sides. But again, GCF, it's that greatest part. I want the largest one they share together. Okay? They'll have lots of common factors, like 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, but I want the biggest one. Okay? Alright, let's take a look at least common multiple. I'm going to move this up. We're going to do some more practice in just a minute, okay? Alright, so let's look at number 1. Least common multiple. 2 and 6. Okay? I'm going to start off skip counting by 2's. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. I always do about 5 of them. Now, here's the other thing too. Hang on one second. Multiples, they will always start with the number itself. So if I were to ask you, what's the first multiple of 6, what's it going to be? 6. You don't go to 12. 6 is the first multiple of 6. Okay, so we say 6, 12, 18, 24, 30. Now, I'm looking for the least common multiple. What's the smallest one they share? Not 12. 6. Very good.
Wait, do you know which number to stop at?
I just usually start at about 5. And if I don't have it in that range, then I can keep going, but 5 usually gives me a good start. So I'll list like the first 5 multiples. We'll have one in a second. I'll show you. It doesn't. We're going to have to go farther. All right, so my least common multiple is equal to 6. Now, why would I use this? Okay, let's talk about that for a second. Let's say we have the fractions 1/2 plus 1/6. Least common multiple is going to help us in figuring out our least common denominator. So like when we were making new fractions that had the same denominator, what number am I going to use for my new denominator? 6. So that's why I'm looking at 2 and 6. 6 would be my common denominator, and then I could change my fractions. No, because look, if this changes to 6, what did I multiply 2 by to get 6? Oh, 3. 3 times 1 is 3. And again, this one would stay the same because 6 times 1 is 6, so 1 times 1 is 1. So at that point, then we could add, but that's why we use the least common multiple, is to find your new common denominators.
Okay, wait.
When you have denominators and you're looking for which one is the smallest one that they share, that's when you're going to use your least common multiple. Let's try a couple more. All right, so let's look. This time we have 3, and we can do that. 3 is fine. Okay. So here we go. We've got 4, 5, and 10. So what are my multiples of 4? 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. I'm going to stop right there. Like again, let's do the first 5. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Okay, you should have heard a number over and over. What'd you hear? 20. So look, what's the smallest one that they have in all 3 columns? 20. So that means my least common multiple, bless you, is equal to 20. Meaning that's the smallest number that all 3 of them have in common.
Is there a way that like none of them have a least common or greatest common?
You will eventually get to one, and we're going to do the next one for that example specifically, okay? So let's look at the next one. So we've got 3, 5, and 7, okay? Skip counting by 3's. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 7, 14, 21, 28, and 35. Now, I've listed 5. Do I have a common multiple yet? I don't. I have one that's common between 3 and 5, but I don't have one that's common between all of them, okay? So, I know, 7 threw us off, didn't he? Okay, so let's go ahead. Let's list some more. If I'm skip counting by threes, that would be what? 18, 21, 24, 27, 30, 33. Oh, am I there yet? I don't think it's going to work, is it?
Oh, come on, 7.
I know, that 7 is really throwing us off. We cannot get rid of 7. Let's see, 56. Y'all are throwing me off. Hold on. 63, 70, 77. Okay, so let's stop and talk. I've now listed, what is that, 11 multiples? I still don't have a common multiple, do I?
What the heck?
Now, can I go up here and multiply all 3 of those together?
I guess so.
Okay, well, what's 3 times 5? 15. And what's 15 times 7? Let's see, 7 times 5 would give us 35. Carry my 3. 105. Guys, that is your least common multiple between all 3 numbers. Now,
Leave it there.
I'm going to, listen to me carefully. If we were to continue going, we would have to get every one of these rows to 105. If you've listed this many numbers and you haven't come across one yet, multiply them together and see if that gets you to something, okay? There's not a number smaller that 3, 5, and 7 will all 3 go into. So yes, there will be times where you keep going and you're like, wait, I'm not getting a common number.
We're not getting anywhere.
Right, so you can go back, multiply those together, and then that would give you at least a common multiple that they share. And if you've gone this far, more than likely it is the least common
We did
multiple.
11, so if we got our lunch money back.
Yeah.
And multiply.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so I know, we're going to do some more. All right, I'm going to stop the video real quick, and then we're going to...
Do this one.